Happy New Year, everybody. It's me, Mark Pereira, back again with another Salt City Hoops episode for you to listen to, watch, wherever you're doing it. Yes, it's the new year. Happy 2026. We're a day late today because I had a surprise cross-country trip back to my hometown of Rochester, New York. Got back late last night, and I couldn't even make it through the Clippers Jazz game that started at 8:30 Mountain. And I couldn't even keep my eyes open in the first quarter, so I just finished a rewatch of that sitting here on Friday afternoon. And I got some thoughts on that, but mostly, hey, it's the new year. It's the new 2026. I'm excited to talk about the very fun, enjoyable Utah Jazz season we've had. And yes, it's kind of a little bit of an easy recording device or podcast episode device, if you will. I know we've seen many articles and podcasts about it already. You don't think I'm going to do my own New Year's resolutions for the Jazz? Here's what I'll promise you, though. I haven't read anybody else's yet. I haven't listened to anybody else's quite yet. And I like to at least come with a little bit of what I understand because of watching and reading everybody and watching this team. I understand what the easy selections are going to be for New Year's resolutions for each of the players or coaches or whatever. I'm going to try to find at least some different angles that I'm going to assume other people are going to poke at some obvious things, such as, oh, this player needs to shoot better, or this player needs to do that better. Like, okay, there's obvious things that the player should get better at, but maybe I'll try to find some new angles for you to enjoy. And New Year's resolutions, you can joke about them all you want to. It's an easy device to talk about a little bit. Maybe you have your own New Year's resolutions. And frankly, it's even if folks don't do well at them, it's still useful to have at least one time a year when you do kind of refresh a little bit and look at yourself and what's something you want to improve or something you want to get good at. I'm curious about everybody else's New Year's resolutions. Before I get into the Jazz, what's my own New Year's resolution? It's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I think I'm going to at least start to embrace it fully. I have always loathed sharing my family life on Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And I certainly don't want to start. I find it so tedious and annoying to capture a fun photo and a fun memory and then have to make a post out of it or make an Instagram story or something like that. And I find that, like, if I'm doing it in the moment, I'm taking myself out of my presence with my own children and my own family. And certainly doing it after the fact feels just like time consuming and unnecessary. And I want to get back to a more traditional way of sharing with my friends my life. And I'm going to start drafting like a monthly Pereira missive on things that the family were up to, along with a boatload of photos for people to enjoy, and just email it out. And I think that'll be a fun way of engaging with my friends and family again about my own family. So I think it'll be a small thing. I'm certainly good at writing a little bit, so I can do a little bit of that. And because, it's a commitment once a month, it doesn't have to be a whole thing. We'll see how that goes. So I'm curious about your own New Year's resolutions, whether it be traditional getting in shape or reading more books, that kind of thing, or just something unusual. Drop off in the comments. Let me know what your New Year's resolutions are, or what your resolutions are for the Jazz going forward. I have my own. I have resolutions here for all 15 players. I did not do the coaches or management, but I think some of that will come up a little bit naturally as we get through it. Won't talk about the games that have been, but just finishing off the Clippers game, and we had the Celtics game a little bit before, and we had a couple wins before that. It's been a little bit interesting time as a Jazz fan. That Celtics game was certainly intriguing. Included a monster Walt Clayton dunk over Derek White, Derek White had 7 blocks in that game, so that was a great dunk. If you haven't seen the Clayton dunk on Derek White, make sure to look that up. It was going to be a top 3 dunk of the year for the Jazz, and factoring in who the defender was, it might even be a top 1 dunk. It didn't look as impressive in live action because Clayton made it look so easy, but then when you factor in like who dunked it, Clayton is not exactly a huge dunker, and how easy he made it look, and then he ran down the court just like it was no big deal. Watching the replay, it made it seem it was a lot more impressive. So it wouldn't have scored well in a dunk contest, but like but then you'd certainly have Kenny Smith after the replay being like, oh my God, that was way better than it seemed live. Like, that was actually a really amazing dunk. They ended up losing to the Celtics regardless, though, which is a result that most people are comfortable with. Jazz sit at 12-21. So this is where I like to remind everyone that the weekly reminder that those panicking about the standings and the top 8 protected pick, there are 49 games. There's 50 games left. There are 49 games left. We're not even halfway through the season. We haven't even started what this team is capable of as far as losing. And the Jazz against the Clippers, to their credit, they took no chances with that one. They rested Lowry. They rested for the first time this year. I mean, they're going to call it an injury, or maybe it was an illness, actually, just a straight-up illness for Keontae George, noting that Keontae was not on the bench against the Clippers. So perhaps it was an honest illness, but he definitely wasn't playing. They obviously, Ace Bailey's still injured, and basically the entire Jazz starting lineup, except for Svi Mykhailiuk, was not playing because you didn't have Walker Kessler out there either. You rested Kevin Love and you rested Yusuf Nurkic. So you're just getting a truckload of Kyle Filipowski minutes, and this is the time when you dust off Kyle Anderson, and Kyle Anderson ended up having a good game. And the Jazz were only down by 1 point going into the fourth quarter after starting the game losing 16-0. You thought it was going to be like another Knicks game or another Nuggets game where the Jazz get down a preposterous amount of points without scoring a single bucket of their own, and they end up clawing all the way back, and they were down by 2 with 7:30 left to play, and then Kawhi Leonard took that game over. So certainly an interesting couple of games for Utah that indicate that the youth of this team is still out there fighting and performing really well. You're getting different performances from different players every game. And just because you have Kyle Anderson was the leading scorer, of course, a lot of people are going to bemoan and complain that, well, why is Kyle Anderson playing so much? And he's the reason we almost won that game. Guys, Kyle Anderson is not a good basketball player. But if he's having a good game, there's no way that you're going to have a shot collar on Will Hardy saying, danger, danger, Kyle Anderson's feeling it today, please pull him from the game. No, you're still trying to produce a winning basketball environment for everyone who's out there. And most of the time, Kyle Anderson is going to have he's a very isolation-heavy player this year. And he's going to have tunnel vision, and he's not going to help you win the game. And he had a good game. Again, maybe keeping Kyle Anderson fresh is what is allowing him to kind of come in these random moments and have these good games. But and Cody Williams had the game of his life, which wasn't even that impressive of a game. He had a couple great plays, was solid defensively, actually, against a variety of different offensive players. Certainly wasn't banking on that, right? Like, you're not banking on these things occurring. They just kind of random, low probability events happen, even if the Jazz are resting all these players, and the Jazz almost steal a win against the Clippers. They ran out of talent at the end of the fourth quarter. But back to the episode device at hand, New Year's resolutions. We're going to try to get through all 15. Maybe we won't. I'm not going to be too upset if we don't get to our resolutions for Kyle Anderson and George Niang, but maybe we'll get there. So who do we start with? Let's start with our biggest surprise of the season. And that's Keontae George. What I want Keontae George's New Year's resolution to be is to get more insane. I think there are a few markers of jumps in the NBA that you can take that are harder than others. And I think the first jump is go from nothing to quality starter. That's a huge, huge, huge jump that is very, very difficult to make. And that is where he is at. He's made this big jump. He's gone from are you in or out of the NBA to NBA starter, and it's not a question. That is a very, very difficult jump to make. Sustaining that is nice, but that's not a New Year's resolution. The next two jumps that are, like, you can make incremental jumps between this, but the big, big, big hard parts are going to be from nothing to starter, starter to all-star, and the hardest one is to reach that all NBA level? How do you get to that all NBA level? And I think for any of these next two jumps for Keontae to take, it's going to require a dose of insanity, like just straight up insanity, and a dedication to a specific part of your life. That, yes, basketball has been your whole life. It's all you've cared about. You've always been the best player wherever you go. And of course, you get to the NBA and you're not quite the best player, but you're still you're getting minutes in the NBA. Like, what more could you want? I think he's now shown that after this purported offseason of dedicating himself to the game and taking a leadership role and speaking with, a coaching therapist or something to that effect, he, as well as a lot of his own personal physical growth, he's taken that first big leap. And it's even harder to say, well, I did all this work and I got here. Like, is there really much more growth for me? Like, how do I get more insane? Trust me, dude, you can get more insane with how you approach it. And maybe you speak to, there's no one on the team like that right now, right? Like, Lowry is at this all-star level, and I think the relationship between he and Lowry is kind of indicative of this. Surely you can grab some of that information from Lowry, who is our current all-star. Hopefully he gets in the all-star game this year because he's having a great season. And I think Lowry has his own insane dedication to the game, which is notable. But if Keontae sitting here at 22, 23 years old should aim higher. Like Lowry's at 29 years old. I don't think that we're going to have that top 10 player in Lowry. He's scratched the All-NBA conversation a couple years ago, but I just don't think that getting into a third team, second team All-NBA is going to be more of a fluke than on purpose for Lowry. I think he kind of is what he is at this point, which I hope to sustain. I still have things for him. Don't worry, we'll get to him. But Keontae's at an age where anything is possible, but it's going to require conversations with others who perhaps have been there and what it was like to go from feeling like you did everything you could to get to the all-star or get to the starter level and score 27 points a game, and just reinforcing that there's more you can do, more, and it could come about in a variety of different ways. And I'm excited to see what'll happen for him. My general resolution is to get more insane. I can't wait to see what happens from here, because he's been a surprise for all of us, and he gets all of the flowers for everything from the end of last season to what he's shown us this year. I've said it on a couple shows before. It's weird to say something like I'm proud of the guy, but I am. And this is a young kid becoming a cool guy, and he is going to spurn a generation of young Jazz fans who are going to be excited about the Utah Jazz. And I want that to be a decade plus of all NBA appearances. It's on the table. It's on the table. Perhaps the ceiling is not that. Perhaps the ceiling is where he is right now. But I certainly don't want it to become because of a lack of mental dedication or insanity. It's not just dedication, it's insanity. I want to really dial that in. Is that it's insanity. That is the problem. Or not the problem, but like what is going to be the cause of the next step for him. Not dedication. He's clearly shown he's dedicated. So, that's what I'm looking for Keontae. Lowry Marketing, I mentioned he's got places to go. He certainly does. I think he's got the career high assist percentage that he's ever had in his entire career this year, and I want that to go up and up and up. It's almost median. He's almost at 10% assist percentage, and it's occurring in all the ways that you kind of have always hoped Lowry to develop. And part of this is, I think, is from Will Hardy's coaching and how he wants the offense to run. But now that there's like a bona fide second dude in Keontae George on the floor, there's a little bit more space for Lowry to operate when defenses crash in on him. So we noted last year that Lowry's probably just never going to have the skill of passing outside of in passing from an off the dribble moment. He doesn't have the vision. He doesn't have the ideas. He can make a simple pass here and there, but for someone who touches the ball as much as he does, like on those off the dribble moments or in isolation moments, he doesn't have a whole lot of vision for the passing. However, what we're seeing more this year and why his assist percentage is up is he's getting the ball on the catch more, on his way to the basket, or on the move more. Way more. And he's creating advantages that way by running off the ball. And so he's getting assists from getting the ball on the catch, having an advantage, taking a dribble or two towards the paint or towards another three-point shot. And because the defense all of a sudden warps to his presence, he is now taking a dribble or two and finding a simple pass way more often out of that. Before they were shot attempts, or before they were 3, 4, 5 dribbles into a shot attempt, right? So now he's passing the ball more when he has an advantage, which is creating a further advantage for the guy he's passed to. He's getting like an additional half assist a game from this. He's recognizing way more. It doesn't sound like much, half an assist a game. It might not even be that high. But he's recognizing these simple passes that he can make outside of an advantage when the defense starts collapsing on him. These are really important reads to go from a kind of an okay, good offense that Utah is on. Utah flirts with an okay offense, right? If everyone on the floor has more of a vision or a brain towards, I have an advantage, can I create something even better for somebody else? That is what propels you to a very good offense, a great offense. And yes, Lowry as a 7-foot shooter, and he's a good physical guy in the interior. The Jazz have an advantage if he is shooting the ball in these situations. Don't get me wrong. It's more, can he start to become familiar with every time he gets the ball in X situation, he should make Y pass if the defense looks like Z. These innate things. It doesn't require rocket science passing to do this. And he's starting to do it a little bit more, and that's why the assist percentage is up. So keep going up. Note that these are New Year's resolutions. These are not necessarily things that we need to see towards the end of the season. We're going to bring in some off-season things for a couple players. This is for 2026. This can bleed into next season as well. So these are, when I say like Lowry's assist percentage will go up, well, he might know, who knows how many games he's going to play the rest of this season, right? Or how many games he's going to play with like a full complement of Jazz players and Jazz starters. So this is more something to think about perhaps going forward into next season, as the Jazz will add a boatload of talent this summer because they're in position to start winning some basketball games next year. He's going to have more opportunities to say, hey, if I make this pass, somebody who is great or at least very good will have an advantage better than the advantage I have. It's going to lead to better offense. I hope the assist percentage continues to go up. He's on the cusp. I'm very excited for what's next for Markkanen. Ace Bailey's a simple one for me. There's so many things a rookie you want to ask a rookie to get better at, and after seeing the Nuggets game live, sitting right behind the bench and seeing Lowry's figure compared to Ace's figure at 19 years old, you just see like this is a guy who he needs to add physicality to his game. And he's way too tall and way too long to not benefit from a heavy additional dose of physicality to it. The thing I noticed the most with Ace Bailey's game is he's good at creating advantages off the dribble, not necessarily via an advanced dribble move or whatever, but simply like having a really nice first step for somebody his size. A really nice first step. Like, you should really watch some of his first steps coming around a screen or using a screen, I should say. He is able to create a fair amount of space, and his defenders are usually larger, bulkier defenders. He gets a step on these guys and doesn't go all the way to the rim. He likes the mid-range a little bit too much when he has an advantage. I don't mind him using his strength. Like, his number one skill is a mid-range shot right now. I don't mind him relying on that mid-range shot when he's in a trickier situation or if he doesn't have an advantage. But when he does have an advantage, I found that he stops. And if he gets more physicality to his game, he'll feel a lot more confident going to the rim. When he does go to the rim, he ends up sprawling a lot, which is I always bothers me ever since like the Dante Exum days, where if a guy's going to the rim and constantly sprawling on the floor, it's always just a bad sign of like, can you develop past that? And I think he's got way more skill and athleticism. His layup package is beautiful. I think he has a lot of very interesting moves he can make around the rim. Dante Exum has never had a layup package in his life. So, like, Ace Bailey's, let's not compare the two guys. But I'm saying that if he's drawing more fouls and getting more contact, he won't be relying on that mid-range jumper as much. And as much as those open mid-rangers are great, I want to see more of the interior scoring, because that's how you become a 20-point scorer in the NBA. Can't do that all in mid-rangers and threes, unless you're a certain kind of special player. So, number of things for Ace Bailey to work on over the course of a year. Maybe this physicality just comes from gaining 10 pounds in the offseason. This is going to be a long process for him. He's already shown us enough to say, at a minimum, this guy's Rashard Lewis. At a minimum. Minimum. His floor is super high. I have great hopes for him, and there's a number of things for him to improve. However that physicality comes, whether it be mental, understanding that you can draw contact and you're going to be fine, might hurt a little bit sometimes, but you can get the free throws, you can and become more of an interior scorer, or it just comes from, hey, I'm now 10, 15 pounds heavier, and the next time, I did that all in the offseason, now I'm in training camp, and when I'm taking bumps from Walker Kessler or Yusuf Nurkic, I don't get bumped as hard as I used to. It seems like I actually have some weight to me now. This can come in a number of different ways. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Next on the list is Yusuf Nurkic. I encourage everyone to read Sarah Todd's latest piece on Yusuf Nurkic. Frankly, you should read everything she and Andy Larson put out. But notably, I think the Nurkic piece is one of the best pieces because, first of all, he's thrust into a starting role. I think for every Jazz fan, that was kind of frustrating because you want to see Walker Kessler out there, who's injured for the season, of course. So who is this random vet on a 1-year expiring contract that we have to put up with? I, with everyone else, was just kind of like, he's a backup center who has to play starting center, and his past, he has a number of stints going back to Portland and Denver, and especially in Phoenix, where if Yusuf Nurkic is not happy, Yusuf Nurkic doesn't play good basketball. And he looks like he doesn't play good basketball, and he hates being out there. And yet, on this particular Jazz team, and especially with the environment, and I think this would have happened even if he was a backup center, and Sarah gets into that in her piece, there's something about the relationships and the culture here that has allowed him to say, you do what you do best. We're going to empower you to be the best version of yourself at 31 years old. We need the things that you provide. We know what you don't provide. And as long as you are not a selfish jerk about everything, we're going to let you shoot some threes. We're going to let you take an ill-advised shot at the rim. Whatever, man. Just as long as you're doing the screening and passing stuff that we really care about. We don't care if you block too many shots. Our defense is what it is. We know who you are. It's allowed him to be happy. And he's playing energetic, intense basketball all the time. He's played 26 or 27 games now, and he's looked... I don't want to say good, because he's had a lot of bad games associated with this. He's a backup center at this point. But he's had an intense joy to his game the entire season, which is not what I expected. So what is my resolution for him? My resolution is to embrace your next contract and really think hard about what that next contract should be and with whom. Because I have gotten to the point where I want him back as the backup center. Lord knows the Jazz have spent 10 years trying to find a backup center, and we finally have one. He's going to be 32. I think he's better than a minimum player, and I don't think he should settle for a minimum contract. But there are going to be some desperate teams out there who might be willing to give him another $15 million contract, and I'm not sure the Jazz will want to do that. Or perhaps the salaries aren't what they are in other places, but he will be offered a starting role somewhere because he's having a great season in Utah. I think there's a lot of young teams who could look at Nurkic and say, hey man, we got a 25-minute-a-game starting role for you if you come play for us. Instead of embracing that sort of a role, I think he should really think hard, whether it be a salary issue or a minutes issue, what Utah has been able to provide him this year and the value that he provided Utah. That maybe the minutes played somewhere else will be better. Maybe the salary will be higher somewhere else. This is a really good spot for Jusuf Nurkic to be a backup center playing 15 minutes a game. Maybe even more. And Walker Kessler, despite the shoulder, Walker Kessler is not some bastion of health anyway. So now, and I think Sarah's piece kind of got into this a little bit, is now Nurk understands what good situations and bad situations can be. And this team loves him. The players love him. Players know how to play with him. He's doing well helping young players learn how to play professional basketball. I want him to embrace that next contract because I don't think he's going to have the minutes or money available in Utah that he would in other places. But there's a degree of happiness that I would like him to consider. I have to finish out the current starting lineup just because that's how my brain works. And that means we end up with Svi Mykhailiuk as the next person. And I can't think of a player that I have. I want... No, I can't say no changes because I did think of a couple things, but I don't want him really to change. He has a career low usage rate, which is terrific. That's exactly what I want. Mykhailiuk in his entire career has had a little bit of penchant for taking bad shots or hijacking offense sometimes. Occasionally you'll see him take a few bad shots here and there for Utah, but way less than he did last year. He has a career low usage. He just kind of operates as an outlet for the starting lineup. He's shooting 40% from three. He's just a guy out there. He's a guy shooting 40% who doesn't hijack possessions. When you want the ball to be shot and possessed by Keontae and Ace and Lauri Markkanen and Bryce Sensabaugh, Isaiah Collier and Walt Clayton, you have these players that we as fans, we want to see them grow having the ball in their hands. Or taking shots, or doing whatever. We want them to have the usage. We don't want nobodies like Svi Mykhailiuk to dominate the ball. Well, he's not. He's not. And if his minutes were replaced like tit for tat with Bryce Sensabaugh, Bryce Sensabaugh, he's a kind of player who demands usage, demands touches. He kind of will be out of place playing alongside Keontae and Lowry and Ace on that starting lineup. Obviously, Bryce Sensabaugh brings skills, and you want eventually our team of the future to learn how to play together. I'm not saying that Bryce should not play with that team, but with that lineup, I should say. But if you have Svi Mykhailiuk out there, you kind of have a lot more balance to that lineup. And so I just have had no problem with his game this year. One area that I think he's guilty of, because everyone on the team is really guilty of this, but I think he has a role in this that can be improved, is he needs to have better transition defense instincts. Boy, that's such a small thing for me to call out. But this entire team has horrible transition defense instincts. I'm not sure what it is about coaching or who these players are that leads to the transition defense being a constant problem. But you notice Mykhailiuk is a really good communicator on defense in the half court. And I would encourage everyone, even if you can't hear what they're saying, really pay attention to the movement of guys' mouths on defense. And that's why you're always noticing Kevin Love is talking nonstop, right? And younger players typically aren't saying a word. Lowry started to really pick up his defensive communication a lot this year. You're seeing him talk a lot out there. And Svi is one of the bigger talkers on defense. On transition defense, it's harder to kind of capture those mouths moving a little bit, but he's frequently making a lot of weird decisions defensively. And I don't think it's effort-based. I think it's more just communication or instinctual and not effort-based for him because he's a really good effort player. And so I want to see if some sort of improved communication or instinctual focus for him on transition defense can bleed over to the rest of the team a little bit, because he's got decent size as a 6'7" dude who he's not a very good rim protector or something like that, but he's not a waif. He's a strong-ish dude. I think there's some transition defense stuff that he can help out with, especially if he's going to play as many minutes as he does. He provides some consistency, and by consistency, I mean like you kind of know what you're going to get from him in the half-court defense. It's not great, but it's fine. It's like minimally acceptable for a bad team. It's completely unacceptable defense if Utah was trying to win. He still has struggles defensively. But transition defense, everyone is just all over the effing place on transition defense, and I think he has enough veteran experience in the NBA with enough effort behind it to be better at organizing transition defense than he is, even if it's not all his responsibility. It's a team collective responsibility, and a lot of people are screwing up, wondering, I don't even know if this is a good resolution for him. It feels like he could have more responsibility there. Anyways, that's enough about Svi Mykhailiuk. Isaiah Collier, one of my favorite players on the team. Everyone's going to say something specific about Isaiah Collier's shooting or his defense. I'm going to nail in one specific thing. This is going to be maybe an off-season focus or whatever. Isaiah Collier needs his free throw percentage to be in the 80s. He's at 69% right now. And I don't know if suddenly he can take an 11% jump, but it needs to improve because his foul drawing rate is an elite tier. He draws more free throws than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, than Trae Young. He's right next to Luka Doncic for foul drawing rate. He draws free throws at a crazy good rate. And he's good. It's because of the speed, and even all those other guys can shoot. Even if Shai is a so-so three-point shooter, he's not become a great three-point shooter, of course, because it's an MVP quality player. But even SGA prefers the mid-range. But you got Trae and Luka as these amazing three-point shooters. Isaiah Collier doesn't have any three-point shooting, but he's got all of the knacks and tricks and speed that he's drawing fouls at a preposterous rate. He's really, really, really good at drawing free throws. Utah might have an amazing special player if he's shooting 80% from the free throw line. And it's at 69%. It's under 70. It's just not appropriate level of free throw percentage. So it just feels like an easily learned skill for a guard style player. Again, I'm just an idiot fan sitting here at home. I've never shot NBA free throws in my life. I don't know if it's an instance of when he gets tired, his mechanics mess up or whatever, but it's something has to be taught via a specific coach or private sessions in the offseason. There is an 80% free throw shooter in here, and an 80% free throw shooter is, for his foul drawing rate, would be a bona fide sixth man of the year weapon. No matter how many, if he shoots 0 threes, it doesn't matter. Because he could be Andre Miller with speed, right? With his passing vision and his foul drawing, he doesn't need to shoot threes, I think, to be effective. Obviously, we want him to shoot threes eventually. And he's actually shooting a few more these days, and he doesn't look terrible shooting them. A lot of confidence to them. The left to right form on his elbow kind of comes and goes, which is why he misses so often. But I'll just be repeating myself. It's for someone who shoots free throws as well as he does, getting to the line as well as he does, there has to be something that says that coaching or something can get him to go at least to 75, but 75 isn't dangerous enough for me. I want him to get to 80. Aim for the moon, man. What is the old stupid saying? If you aim for the moon, Aim for the moon, because if you miss, you'll be among the stars. Like, whatever. Put that on a poster behind me with a kitten. And that's your inspirational poster for Isaiah Collier going into 2026. Bryce Sensabaugh. This is where I'll lie and deviate from my initial claims. I'm going to try to find something different than other people probably. I don't know, man. I got nothing else to say about Bryce except shoot the damn ball better. And when it comes to three-point shooting, I mentioned this on another show, is I get dismayed. He went 0-5 from 3 against the Clippers. Shot 7 of 10 from 2 range, by the way. I get so dismayed when his three-point shots, and a lot of them were like this against the Clippers, that they wildly miss. Like, they're not even close. They graze the side of the rim often. It's gross. It's really gross. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. So I don't have this long, eloquent thing of purpose and intention or whatever. It's just get it doctored up. I'm loath to suggest to a young player to really overwork something that clearly worked before. He shot 43% from 3 last year or something crazy on high volume. So like he proved that he was a good 3-point shooter last year. But I'm wondering about professional, like, discrete coaching that can say, here's what you were doing that year and here's what you're doing this year that is causing this wild 12, 13 percentage point swing. Something is wrong. And we need to get that fixed. And when I mentioned the top, like, we got 50 games left, it's very, especially because Bryce Sensabaugh is going to be playing a lot more minutes towards the end of the season than he was in the beginning of the season. He's going to get unlimited opportunities as the Jazz rest guys and whatever. He's going to get unlimited opportunities to score. I still think it's possible that he finishes the season in the high 30s if he's able to shoot 7, 8, 9 threes a game. Like, maybe that'll help kind of improve the structure of his form a little bit. Who knows? But it's a simple one for him. Shoot better. Kyle Filipowski is another guy like Ace Bailey where there are so many little ways I can point that he needs to improve. Pick one of them and you have a great New Year's resolution. And building off of Bryce, though, I just think it's simple for Flip to be an NBA player. It's got to shoot threes. He's a 31% three-point shooter right now, and that is not an NBA player. That is out of the NBA. For his size deficiencies, defensive deficiencies, and what he's able to do offensively, he's got to be a good shooter. I find that his misses are not as off as Bryce's, but they also go in less. So look, I'm no personal shot doctor myself. I kind of like to look at consistency of like what form makes sense for a guy and how he's able to score. One of my favorite jumpers of all time is Kevin Martin, who has one of the ugliest jump shots of all time. But he had this like shooting from the hip motion that like allowed him to follow through at the appropriate time, and also allowed him to draw a ton of free throws. That's your weekly remember a guy. I feel like I do that every week where I bring up a guy that you did not think I was going to bring up. And this week it's Kevin Martin, former Kings and Rockets legend. Maybe not a legend for the Rockets, certainly a legend for the Sacramento Kings. Filipowski's playing way too often with lineups that allow him to get open. Whether he's being forced to play the 5 like he was against the Clippers, and he's playing against a very, very, very slow-footed Brook Lopez who is just going to hang around the rim. There are opportunities for Filipowski to shoot threes uncontested, and he is just missing them. I should have pulled it up. I don't have it in front of me right now, but it feels like, and you can look this up, which I maybe I will after I post this and put it in the comments or something. It feels like he misses a lot of open or lightly contested threes. That's the part that really grinds my gears, is like you should be good enough to shoot decently from 3. So that's a simple one for me. Taylor Hendricks, it's all going to be assertiveness, right? Defensively and offensively. He's shooting 40% from 3. A lot of them are corner 3, so like, okay, perhaps on the easier side of things. But 40% is 40%, guys. He doesn't have a huge foul rate, which on first glance you think, oh, guys who are not fouling a lot, that's good. You don't want to foul the other team. Not so with Taylor Hendricks. I want him to foul more. So if I'm picking like a specific fun New Year's resolution, I want Taylor Hendricks to contest more shots. And by contest more shots, I'm fine if he fouls out foul out of games second half of the season. He picked up 3 fouls in 3 minutes against the Clippers. I think 2 of the fouls were shooting fouls and one of them was not. And you find young guys foul out of games on off-ball fouls. We've seen Ace Bailey struggle with that a lot this year on just fouling off the ball, and all of a sudden you racked up 5 fouls in 15 minutes. I want Taylor Hendricks to foul out a game by contesting shots recklessly. Learn what you can get away with. Be the third helper on a player that you've identified in your video and your scouting report, so that I know the coaches are insistent on, like, how often does a guy shoot when he gets to this position? Identify when a player is, a non-all-star level ball handler is going to have like these specific tendencies. Abandon your assignment if you're not guarding the ball directly and just go contest the shot. Get some fouls. Get out there and see what you can get away with. So when people are like, oh, I want, Taylor Hendricks to be more assertive. Yes, I agree with that. I want him to get reckless. I want him to learn what the other side of the equation is. And I said it probably a month ago. It's coming back to me now that it's possible that a player of his age might even be being overcoached, or because the team is so fanatic about defensive game plans and everything, that he is sticking to the game plan in a way that's anchoring his development. It's probably helpful for the entire young team to have drilled into them and have Will Hardy yelling at them on basic defensive principles that they want to have for a specific game. But for Taylor Hendricks in particular, I'm wondering if he would benefit from a little bit more recklessness. So, despite, if I'm true about that, Taylor, stop listening to the coaches. Be more reckless. Walt Clayton, I have a good one for Walt. The last 50 games of the season, the Jazz are going to be in some really rough spots. The Jazz are going to lose way, way, way more basketball games. We are absolutely going to rest Keontae George a lot. We're going to rest Lauri Markkanen a lot. We're going to rest Yusuf Nurkic a lot. There's going to be a lot of rest for veteran players or players with the biggest voices on the team, right? Not necessarily, Keontae's not exactly a vet, but he's a big voice for this team. Walt Clayton, the team is going to need your voice. And your New Year's resolution is you come into the NBA with this huge reputation as a leader. And it's something that Dwayne Wade has talked about it. Like, his poise and leadership is a huge attribute and why Utah drafted him. It's probably a big thing of why Danny and Austin Ainge, they're big on that leadership crap, right? I say crap because I think it's, it's a qualitative, immeasurable thing. So for a non-NBA player like myself, some of those immeasurable things are hard to see and they feel like fairy tale like qualities. But the end of the season is going to have they're going to have problems of losing lots of games, and the emotions are going to run low. And so far this season, this has been a remarkably fun season and positive season for player-player relationships and player-coach relationships for Utah. I think we're seeing just a wonderfully built team as far as player relationships. And when the team is surprising a little bit, the team knows they're not going to make the playoffs or whatever, but like they're winning more than they expected or than the media expected. So they're like, vibes are good right now. The vibes are going to take a turn for the worse once the team starts losing more. You are going to be playing in those games though. And the team is going to need your leadership and your voice that ostensibly you have. I don't think he's been a quiet guy or whatever. We don't know what his locker room presence is right now, but he is a rookie, and we don't need him to become rookie Chris Paul jerk out there. But on a team with few players with outgoing personalities, I think, except for those big star personalities, they're going to need you to keep the vibes good going into the offseason. So I'm hoping for that for Walt. Cody Williams, a little bit related to Taylor Hendricks in what I mentioned about Svi Mykhailiuk. Nice little game. Let's talk about his game against the Clippers. So I'll pull up his stats in that game real quick because I think it is notable to at least refer to the actual statistics that he had. 18 points, no rebounds, no assists. 2-3. He went 2 of 5 from 3, I think. 1 block. -10 in an 18-point loss. He was on the floor during the Jazz big comeback in the second quarter, so he gets a lot of credit for that. 18 points, obviously the 2 threes, one of them was contested, one of them was not, I think, and he had 3 misses. 2 of them were really bad misses. He had a couple within the offense plays that were just, he played a lot of them. He played 26 minutes and he got 18 points, so a few of those buckets were just within the system offense, but he had a couple plays where he just took it to the rim really aggressively and finished really interestingly. There was one where he was on the left side and he did a left crossover to James Harden. So he drives into the interior, immediately lowers his shoulder into Kawhi Leonard, gets bumped, shoots it up, gets a foul, and one. Cool play. Kawhi Leonard was surprised. He was like, wow, because Cody Williams, it wasn't, yes, crossing up James Harden is not exactly the most difficult task in the world, but he did it fast. It was a fast crossover. And so all of a sudden he was in Kawhi Leonard's chest to draw the foul. Very cool stuff. And then he had on the complete opposite end, coming from the right side, just a driving, swooping layup. Where I think it wasn't even a dribble move, and I forget who his defender was, but it was just a left foot dribble straight up into a left-handed swooping layup. Really cool assertiveness. He had another play earlier where he got a step on a guy and threw up a wild layup off the glass that did not, and he had way more space to do a lot more with it. He also had a right foot drive that he almost got a good dunk on, but got fouled by John Collins. The assertiveness was really interesting. So similar to Hendricks and perhaps similar to Svi Mykhailiuk a little bit, is be a little bit more instinctual. Think less. Make a decision and go for the rim. I've joked about it on social media in the past, this year, that I do a little chuckle whenever Cody Williams drives to the rim, he gets blocked horribly, or he misses a layup badly. And when I mean bad missed layups, I mean they're just not close. That our friendly announcing team of Craig Bolerjack and Thurl Bailey would be like, well, I'm glad that he tried it. They'll say something really positive, like, well, I like the aggressiveness from Cody Williams out there. You know, I joke about such a positive statement after a horrible result on a specific play. I'm like, well, Jazz media's got to be a little bit, they're state media. They got to be positive. There's so many things that they can't say, and I'm just an idiot at home, and I can say whatever I want. But you know what? I do like the aggressiveness. I do like Cody Williams trying to figure out, like, where is my place in the NBA? And you can do a lot worse to an offense, or like there are so many worse plays a player can make than driving to the rim and missing. The contested fadeaways early in the clock. Like those sorts of plays are way, way, way worse than a player who's at least going to try something, right? And the more he tries it and the more he misses, the more he's going to figure out, like, all right, maybe a little less loft on the layup. Or, hey, if I get in a position where I'm not comfortable taking a terrible layup, where's my guy in the corner? He can learn these things. over the past 2 weeks the first inkling that he might learn something. Not that he's going to be an NBA player or a rotation player or even on the end of the bench, that he just might learn something to work on in the offseason. So that more instinctual request from him, I think, will be a part of it, because I think he does pick up on some skills when he's out there, and I think he does get some value from minutes. So hopefully, again, 50 games left. I think we're going to get a lot of Cody Williams. He does enough defensively that he's not ruining your team. So we'll see. We'll see a lot of Cody Williams, and we'll see what he can develop by using more of his instincts to play. Walker Kessler, very similar to Jusuf Nurkic, man. Cash the check you're going to get. Let's go play basketball. He's a very emotional player. That's a good thing. We like to have different personalities on the team. I like seeing him behind the bench for the Clippers game. I know he's been at a lot of these games, just not behind the bench for various reasons, usually because the Jazz just don't have any room on the bench with all their coaches and everything. But it was nice seeing him behind the Clippers bench, like having him more of a presence right there next to the team during game action is cool. He's going to get a fat paycheck in the summer. And you can kind of look at Jusuf Nurkic and say, man, that's a guy who was a malcontent and kind of got traded and shipped around and nobody believed in him anymore. But if you show up and just kind of do your job really well for a long time, your teammates will have your back, your coach will have your back. There's no real resolution here except for consider where your career is going to go if you think hard about switching teams or that Utah's not your best fit. I'm biased, but we've seen it over a number of years now that Utah is just one of the better team environments to play in, as far as facilities and relationships and how much the overall non-basketball operations staff cares about players and their families and everything. It's a quiet place to play basketball, go do whatever you want in the offseason, but this is a place to work and focus on basketball, and they have the facilities to make doing the recovery things and doing the basketball boring things enjoyable. And he's going to get suitors from a number of different teams, and Utah is not the only good situation out there, but there are a lot of bad situations. And so I hope he enjoys cashing the next check he's going to get. And I hope he's a restricted free agent, so it's not like he has a ton of agency, no pun intended, on his restricted free agency. But he can do a lot of damage to himself, I think, if he thinks too far about leaving Utah. And he should talk to guys like Lowry and Jusuf Nurkic and maybe even Kevin Love about what bad situations look like. And why you should try not to think too much about grass is greener, because good situations are good situations. I think it was in Sarah Todd's piece about Jusuf Nurkic. Maybe I'm forgetting where I saw this, but it's like Nurkic and Kevin Love are constantly telling the guys, you don't know how good you have it here. This is a really good situation in Utah, and I hope young people don't listen. I certainly don't listen very much when I was 22. And I'm hoping that advice lands with some people, and Kessler's the one person I'm the most worried about, because there's a future playoff team in here if he's in the picture, and if he's not in the picture, it becomes a lot harder, I should say. Kyle Anderson has something like a $9 million expiring contract. Kyle Anderson, and it's not expiring. He has another year left in his contract that is fully non-guaranteed. So for all intents and purposes, he is an expiring contract because there's not a team in the world that would pick up that non-guarantee. Except if we have seen players who certainly are not deserving of their full non-guaranteed amounts still have their contract amount picked up anyways to help facilitate a trade. So perhaps he gets his next year's contract picked up next offseason. But right now, for all intents and purposes, he's a $9 billion expiring contract. I put it at plus 200 that he gets moved as some part of the deal. Because the Jazz have the ability to help some teams out with some cap flexibility. And maybe some teams who are over the tax get under the tax. But Utah's not going to make it so easy as just be like, hey, give us your $20 million player. I'd be like, hey, you're going to have to take back Kyle Anderson in this whole thing. And we'll help you out $12 million style or something like that. I don't know. I did not pull up the cap sheets in front of me before this particular episode, but it is Kyle Anderson's contract is going to help grease a lot of transactions. Personally, what I'm hoping for is the Jazz do some sort of pre-agency. I'm going to be talking about this a lot over the next couple years, or a couple weeks, I should say. The Jazz trade deadline preview stuff. I'm hoping the Jazz do a little bit of pre-agency where instead of trying to figure out what moves are going to make this offseason to create the next playoff team, that they start bringing in those players now. Maybe not starters, but like players who are better than Cody Williams, players who are better than Taylor Hendricks, players who are better than Kyle Filipowski to be part of the rotation. And before you start moaning about Filipowski, Hendricks minutes or whatever, it's players like Filipowski and Hendricks haven't shown that they're going to be rotation players. Right? They're going to get all the minutes they want this year by bringing in one of these, a quality player now. I'm thinking like, hey, this is a player that you don't necessarily play a ton of minutes the rest of this season, but it's somebody where you bring in, they have 2 years left on their contract, or they're a player you bring in where they're not going to play the rest of the year, but you can kind of work out a contract extension with them, because once you bring them in-house, you can start having conversations with them about what their contract looks like. There's always certainly some tampering that goes on with those situations. Think very carefully to Toronto acquiring Brandon Ingram and then immediately coming to an extension, right? Like, it's one of those things where the team and the player kind of have a loose, they're sending smoke signals out to each other about like, hey, do you want an extension? Yeah. Oh, how much is that extension going to be? And you can kind of figure that out. So I think Kyle Anderson's $8-9 million will be used in a transaction of some sort for the Jazz come trade deadline. There'll be no reason for them not to. Doesn't seem like he's in the Nurkic, Kevin Love, George Niang school of great veteran teammate attitude. So I kind of just don't want his surly jerk face around very much. He's not disliked by the team, I don't think, but he's not exactly known for his positive energy, and it certainly feels like he's frustrated by not playing for you. Not like, I don't think he's frustrated by not playing for Utah. I don't think he's going to find many more minutes at another location. I think it's when I was at the game in Denver, I can hear a lot of the conversation on the bench. And more than once, Kyle Anderson made a note to be frustrated over his feeling like he could contribute to that game. I'll leave it at that. Last two, because we got 2 minutes left. I'm going to do it. Kevin Love. Consider coming back in Udonis Haslem role. The Jazz have a lot of draft picks coming up. We might not have a roster spot, but we certainly have a lot of roster influx over the next couple years. And if we have a 15th roster spot available, I would encourage the front office and I would encourage Kevin Love to consider coming back for that Udonis Haslem style role. Now, the difference with Kevin Love and Haslem is Haslem spent like a 49,000 year NBA career with that Miami Heat. So it made sense for him to kind of, okay, he is the figurehead here. Let's keep him around as long as he wants to. He's earned that. And Kevin Love hasn't earned that free contract, if you will, from the Jazz. But I do think that he has already, within a very short amount of time, established himself that everyone loves having him around. The team loves having him. The players love having him. The fans love having him. He loves being here. It's a great way to get a check and to raise his very young family and to be around this organization. And he has shown this year that he actually can still play some minutes. Now he has his struggles out there. There's a whole lot of things he can't do. I think everyone knows he can't do that. And if this team has a full complement of a 9 to 12 man rotation, he's certainly not going to be in that. But unlike Haslam, minutes for Kevin Love are, hey man, we kind of need a big man who can shoot. Can you please play? And he can rise to the occasion a little bit, whereas Haslam was really, really just a figurehead. So I think there's don't consider retiring yet. Consider what your next year could look like, and if that could be with Utah. And I would encourage management to think filling a 15th roster spot was something he can do. So finally, Georges Niang. Very simple one because we haven't seen him play, but we know who he is. Utah is deploying a lot of lineups, especially with Isaiah Collier, that just doesn't have enough shooting. And Georges Niang has the shooting, and he's slow-footed, but competent defensively, good communicator defensively. Your shooting can really help lineups. So once you're healthy, force Will Hardy to play you over Kyle Anderson, which means you won't play very often. But when we get into situations like the game against the Clippers, where we're down 1,000 players, it would have made a lot of sense to have you out there instead of Kyle Anderson. And Kyle Anderson was helpful, and he had a good game. And again, he's one of the reasons that we almost won that game. But there's a lot of bad Kyle Anderson out there. And there are going to be more opportunities for Georges Niang's shooting and ball movement to be a little bit more helpful than Kyle Anderson. So that's the entire roster. I'm not going to get into the coaches or management or stuff like that. I think we'll get in more into what my personal wishes are for the management on trade deadline preview and post-trade deadline, thinking about the offseason ahead for the Jazz. I think the natural New Year's resolutions for those individuals and concepts will come up naturally later on. We don't necessarily have to talk about that now. But those are the players. What did you agree with? Now I'm going to go read everyone else's New Year's resolutions post, see where we dovetailed or where we differed. Let me know what you think about my New Year's resolutions for everyone, and I want to hear what yours are. Again, I will say this every week. Sometimes I say it at the top, sometimes I say it at the bottom. I like hearing from you. That's why I'm doing this. This is my outlet to talk about the Jazz because I have 1,000 thoughts and my words need to get out somewhere. And I want to talk to you. I'm personally am on Blue Sky. I'm easy to find. Just search my name. You can find Salt City Hoops on Twitter as well. Find them on Blue Sky. Find Dan Clayton on both. And also YouTube comments, man. I'm sitting here. I'm reading your comments. I'll respond. Thank you for listening and watching to this edition of Salt City Hoops New Year's Resolutions. My name is Mark Pereira. I will talk to you next week. Good night.